From the first black student in an all-white school to the lone black executive at the C-suite table, America has applauded firsts. But what if those firsts are a trap? What if tokenism being celebrated as proof of progress while nothing structural changes is quietly holding African American communities back? If you're like me, you've probably been both a beneficiary and a victim of tokenism. Beneficiary, because as a kid growing up in a predominantly white community, I had the opportunity to be the first black student at my private school. And then later, as an adult, I became the first black person hired at a prestigious tech company. But I also experienced firsthand how these so-called firsts can isolate you and put a target on your back. You see, the firsts were a double-edged sword. On one hand, they opened doors. On the other, they set expectations. I was expected to excel in a way that my white peers weren't, and if I didn't, it would somehow prove that black people weren't as capable. This pressure nearly crushed me. It made me question whether I belonged, and whether I was truly there on merit or just as an ornament. And I'm far from alone. Tokenism was born in the civil rights aftermath of the 1960s. Facing pressure to integrate, companies, universities, and political institutions often added a single black face to prove they weren't racist without giving real power. Sociologist Rossabeth Moss Kanter coined the term tokenism in 1977 to describe how minorities are treated as symbols, not equals. The black first hire, or first manager, was often isolated, scrutinized, and used to shield organizations from deeper reform. Fast forward to today. Tokenism still thrives, sometimes dressed up as diversity initiatives. Sure, we've come a long way. More of us are in positions of power than ever before. But what kind of power do we really have? How much has actually changed? One example is economic ceiling. 1 or 2 black executives are promoted to the top, making it look like we've arrived. Meanwhile, pay gaps persist and black-owned businesses receive a fraction of venture capital. Then there's the psychological toll. Tokens face hypervisibility. Every mistake is magnified, every success dismissed as luck or diversity optics. Imagine being the only black person in a room. Your voice is tokenized. You're either silenced or worse. Your opinions are sought after to check a box, but they're never truly valued. And perhaps most insidious is how tokenism can stall community progress. When a single success story is held up as proof racism is solved, real policy changes stall. Take school funding or policing reform. Advocates for equitable change are dismissed as overly sensitive or radical. Why? Because one black person succeeding is seen as evidence that systemic racism isn't a problem. So what does real progress look like? For me, it means shifting from representation to redistribution, from symbolic gestures to tangible change. Here are 3 steps we can take. First, power sharing. Hire, fund, and promote at every level, not just the top photo op. Second, community investment. Support black-owned businesses, housing, and schools, not just diversity panels that make good PR sound like progress. Third, policy change. From voting rights to wealth gap initiatives, structural fixes matter more than optics. Sure, representation matters. Seeing people who look like you in positions of power is inspiring. But if those folks aren't working to dismantle the systems that keep folks like you down, their presence is performative. It's not solving the problem. It's maintaining the status quo. Real progress isn't about optics. It's about results. And those results won't be delivered by the same folks who created and perpetuated the problem. We have to ask who's at the table, yes, but also what are they doing? Are they amplifying unheard voices, or are they just checking a box? As Martin Luther King Jr. said, true power must beget accountability. So here's what I want you to do. Look around you. At your workplace, school, or city, do you see tokens? People who are there to make it look like change has happened without actually working to dismantle the systems that need to change. Share your story below. Let's break the token cycle together. Tokenism feels like progress, but it functions like camouflage. If we want genuine equity, we have to demand more than a seat at the table. We need a say in the menu.